think you look like a Bee Gee with that beard. Anyway, good morning to you, or just after good morning. We're going into the afternoon with the Munsons on the moment here on New Reality TV. We've got a fantastic guest. I don't think I want to waffle too much. We've got to get Joe on it.
Yeah, we really do. We've worked with Joe many times before on the Feel Good Conversations show and also on the Barefoot broadcast. He is a high caliber guest, amazing person.
Absolutely.
So
honestly, we were nearly late because we started talking to Joe behind the scenes before the show, and I was like, it's 3 seconds to go. So let's bring him straight on.
Yeah, let's not waste any time.
Please say hi in the chat. Tell us how you're doing. You were saying you're a bit jittery, so coming into
I am a bit jittery because I'm really excited about like connecting again. It's been a while. I need my Joe fix. So yeah, let's get him on.
Joe fix. Can you do that, Joe?
How you doing, Joe?
Morning.
Yes, I'm plodding along as normal in these sort of weird and wonderful times that we find ourselves in. Yes. But yeah, I just try and keep a little light-hearted chuckle in my heart and just go from there, really, and it seems to be working.
Great.
When I first met you a few years ago now, you were kind of known under the name of Dr. Effing Joe because you've got a way of being very real and kind of telling it like it is. You've dropped the effing, I noticed.
It differentiates you from Dr. Joe Dispenza as well, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm the handsome one.
Exactly. Yeah. I was about to say.
So tell me, what changes have you been through in the last few years? Because I know you've got your Getting Real with Dr. Joe show. What's that about?
Yeah.
It means cut out the pretentiousness and just be yourself, And what do we mean by yourself? People used to say to me years ago, why don't you just be yourself? And I thought I was being myself. But I've realized through sort of mindfulness and meditation and sort of introspection that I was nothing but a programmed automaton, basically, and at the deepest level, call it my essential self or my soul self or whatever, that there was something in there trying to break out that was contained and confined and corralled by society, And once I started to see it, I thought, I've never been able to think for myself. I've just been working off automatic habits and patterns that were fed to me in my ignorance and my naivety, and sometimes in my arrogance, because sometimes I wouldn't look at the truth when it was full on. This is what I've realized now, that if somebody says something and I get an emotional reaction to it, it's not to look at them, it's to look at where it's triggering in me. And it can only be the ego, right? Because there's a part of me that's essential, that's fearless, right? And that works and lives in the moment, in the truth. And if I live in the moment, in the truth, I'm totally, utterly fearless. And I just be myself. There's nothing to come down here from the headator. I call this the headator.
The headator.
Which is basically, it's just a sort of compilation, right, of years and years and years and even eons of previous behavior, both personally. I'll shut up in a minute. Both personally,
right? No, not for the 27 minutes. You're good.
Yeah, personally, and also ancestral behavior from the past. And I didn't know any of this. I was a biomedical scientist, right? I was always stressed, always anxious. I was having all sorts of panic attacks and stuff. And I found that if I drank as much as I could, right, it sort of normalized me to keep me in society. Right. Yeah. And I realized, and it's come in a couple of weeks' time, it'll be 33 years since I've been clean and sober, living one breath at a time, one step at a time, and one day at a time. And it transformed my life, and naturally as well. I'm not against medications. I'm not against anything. I mean, I work in medicine, but I'm more in favor of working with the natural, essential self.
Yes.
But other than that, just a normal day, really.
Yeah. And a couple of things then. This is New Reality TV. Do you sense that we are in times? It sounds like you've created a complete new reality for yourself and you help other people to do that. But do you think there's a zeitgeist going on that's open to that and we're part of something here?
Yeah, I've got no idea. No doubt about it. I mean, I've studied yoga philosophy for a long time. Between 5,000 and 7,000 years ago, they said that this was coming, this age now. I mean, this is called, these are called the yugas, and we're going through the sort of probably the worst part of the yuga cycle, which is indicative of low morality. And I'm not a saint, you know what I mean? But I'm talking about greed, egocentricity, I think, really.
Yes,
it's all about me, more, you know. And I fell into that trap as well, being told what you need to do is you need to work hard, you need to do 100 hours a week, grit your teeth, make as much money as you can, climb the ladder of success. And I was knackered all the time, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there was something in me to say, hello, will you just hang on a second and stop? Because you know, you're not paying attention to what what your heart's telling you or your soul.
Love to know what that voice was. I've got my second question.
Oh, okay.
Right. You mentioned.
No, you two like it.
Over you.
We are. So you'll have to come back.
Okay.
33 years. What do you want to hear? Because you know when people hear that and you're sharing that, and it's a typical kind of daytime TV thing, isn't it? It's like, well done, Joe. 33 years. That must be amazing. I'm sure you don't want to be patronized, but probably wouldn't mind being acknowledged. What do you want to hear after 33 years of being clean and sober?
I guess if somebody just says to me sincerely, it's good that.
Yeah.
That's it. I don't want, oh, isn't that marvelous? We'll put you on the stage. It does
happen, doesn't it? It does happen.
We'll put the light on you, which is your best side. Just turn round, that's your best side. But what I realized is this is about radical responsibility for me. I'm only talking about me now. Whatever anybody else does. But I realize now that I am 100% for the way I process information and the decisions I make. And I didn't realize that when I was taking in all this sensory information and perceiving it, that basically it was from a sort of a mask of fear all the time, fear and insecurity. And so all my choices in life were basically defensive choices.
Yeah.
And I realized today and it's almost like, you know, there are organizations and marketing forces that would have you in that position all the time.
Yes.
So that keep you on your toes so that they can offer you particular products in order to help you to treat the symptoms and feel better. But you don't feel better, you just feel less. You know,
that's interesting.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah,
you're right.
That's an interesting angle, isn't it?
I mean, if you have to take something to be able to feel yourself, I think that does leave you with a feeling that you can't do it on your own. And that's why I really love your approach, and the approach of anyone that can help. Well, anyone that helps people help themselves. I mean, because that's what it's about, isn't it? You can't really help somebody. You can help them see that they might, you know, make particular choices, but it's a journey we all must take alone. What would you say have been the big highs and the big lows on your journey, you know, that really stick out?
The big highs are when I'm able to see the truth, feel the emotional reaction, rather than going forward, take a step back into mindful breathing and then ask my intuition then, which I believe that's what we're going through planetarily, right? Yeah. We're going through the move into our next evolution, this whole human race, and there's people hanging on like mad to try and keep hold of the old ways. You know, there's a Zen phrase and it says, let go or be dragged, right? And that's actually, you know, and
where did that come from?
You're seeing a bit
it was a Zen, apparently it's a Zen phrase, and I just steal. I mean, I hear things and steal them, you know what I mean? I don't know where they
that's
come
brilliant.
From. You know, people say it's great that you make these phrases up, and I think, no, I must have stolen it from somewhere, you know, or whatever. But the point is, it's to surrender, and people think when you surrender that you're giving in, right, as such. But you're not really. What you're doing is you're just making space for the next wave of our own personal develop to sort of emerge, really. And I think, you know, because we're talking about mindfulness and enjoying the moment, I think intuition, in my experience, only works in the moment.
Right. Yeah.
Other than that, we're mostly working from the past and then looping over into imagination about what it's going to feel like in the future.
Software, isn't it? So on that note then, Joe, can you treat us to some of this mindful breathing?
Actually, before, I just want to, if you don't mind, I loved what you were saying about surrender. Like when you surrender, you're just making space. As you said that, something popped in for me, and that was when we surrender, we're also rejoining the human condition, or we're rejoining the collective. You know, like because when I think about my surrenders, and I want to like put this out to you because you might disagree with me and that would be useful. When I've surrendered, I realize I'm giving up something that my ego has wanted to hold on to, like an identity. There's an idea I've made up about myself. And when I surrender, it's like I'm rejoining the collective somehow.
Okay, I see it slightly differently. I think I couldn't think of anything worse than wanting to rejoin the collective. You know.
Oh, but do you mean like the condition of how it is right now? Like the
yeah, I'm talking about now, you know, because this Kali Yuga thing, I used to read it and think, what a load of old nonsense, you know, and then I looked at and then something to go, hang on a second. That was my intuition. I didn't know that at the time. It would be, hang on a second, give it a fair trial and read a bit further. And then my mood, see, I work from feelings, and I'm not going to swear here, but I'm developing a series called the F-Off series, it's called. Excellent. Now, F-Off stands for focus on feelings first.
There you
Love
go.
that.
Yes. And so that's what I'm doing. And I got that. That was an inspiration that came to me. You know, I also do something called the I am approach to health and well-being. And the I am stands for innate. That means inside. Assets. That means there are skills or our abilities and management. So it's almost like allowing what we're strong with and not what's wrong with us, you know. So it's focusing on what's strong in the individual and not what's wrong with the individual. But in the world that we live in, it's so critical that you're no good at that. You need to go on a course. You need to spend thousands of pounds in order to be taught a different way. I don't think that we need to get hold of anything else. I think that we need to let go of everything in order for what's already present. I know I'm going on one now, but you know,
no. Keep going.
In order for what's already present to emerge, it's just waiting to come up and express itself. And here's the thing is, you won't know what's going to come next. And that's the excitement of it. This is about being in the moments, but also becoming. And I also don't believe that we can develop unless we take action on the inspirational thoughts that are coming to us, because loads of people know stuff. Yeah. And this, I'm only talking about me now, because I was like a knowledgeable idiot. You know, somebody called me like, he said to me, have you ever heard the expression, no all knows foot? Oh, okay, not that one. But, you know, and this fella said to me, this was my helper at the time. He said to me, Joe, he said, you're the, you know, I keep saying things and all you say is, I know. And he said to me, and this was the line, he said, it's plain to me that you've got no idea because you've just tried to take your own life. And you've got all these qualifications which do not mean a single thing to you. And I thought, he's right. And when I left his house the next day, something happened to me, like some sort of epiphany or something like that. I'm not a religious person, but my life changed. And it was almost like I got a blank sheet to start thinking for myself. And my old fella, my dad, he'd always said to me, son, think for yourself and play it by ear. And that's what I do now. That's
fantastic. And what a great asset along your hero's journey there. That chap who told you that, you know, you're the people who turn up along the way, right? You weren't expecting it, I don't suppose, to come from that particular person.
It comes in unexpectedly. That's the whole point about it, is because if you expect it, you'll try and duck and dive and dodge and weave and get out of it. So it needs to be spontaneous, almost like guided by invisible forces. And I don't really get into all that because, I mean, people have said to me that I'm being guided by the angel. Fair enough. Whatever works for you, that's fine, you know. Yeah. I mean, and as for astrological, I believe there are massive astrological changes taking place at the moment in the cosmos. And we're all being affected by that now. But in medicine, I teach in medicine. They don't want any of that. So I have to be sort of careful about it. And what I do is I help people to reconnect with their source self. And that means their intuition. And almost by magic, when they're sitting there, the thoughts that they need to have, start to come to them. And it's when they go, you never guess what? And I think, oh, here we go.
Here we go. So Joe, how is that for you, teaching in what sounds like a mainstream medical model? Is that have you got like a hidden agenda then, in a way? Because you can't come straight out with it with what you're talking about, can you?
No, and I've had to be subtle. And what I do is at the start of the modules, if you like, they drag me out and they say, this is Joe and this is done this, that and the other. And I say, hello, my name's Dr. Delaney. I'm not a doctor of medicine. I'm a doctor in medicine. My area of speciality is how the mind and the brain and the heart all work with one another. you know. And so I bring in then what's called the autonomic nervous system, because that's like the wiring system that connects all the glands of the body and stuff like that, you know. And it depends on the audience really, because if it's a sort of health talk, I can almost like bring in Eastern stuff and maybe talk about chakras and stuff like that. If it's just a Western medical model, I'll just talk about the endocrine glands, of which there are 7. So what I've tried to do is, I'll shut up in a minute, but what I've tried to do is I've tried to combine the Eastern and Western approaches, right? But work with mindful breathing, because the stuff I do is, I call it hacking physiology to change psychology. Because the Western model is still much about, oh, don't think like this. If you get into that situation again, we'll reframe it and we'll think in a different way. Well, when we're talking about instincts and fear and protection, you can't generate enough thought power to overcome instincts.
That is my clip of the day, because it's well-meaning, isn't it? But it doesn't work necessarily.
No. The only thing I think about psychology and counseling and stuff, if it leads you back, because everybody talks about we can empower you. No, you can't. You can facilitate an environment that whereby I make the choices that empower myself. But you're not doing it for me, because if I think you're doing it for me, I'm still relying on external sources of power. Doesn't work like that, in my view. And I could, for the people listening, please don't believe a single word I say. I don't want, I'm not trying to force anything. I'm only talking about what happened to me. And I was always looking outlook, right, for answers, when I needed to turn my head the other way around and look inwards, you know. And since I've started to do that and develop this confidence by taking actions and seeing them work, I know now that this is really what the human race needs.
Wow. Just a reminder there, if you are watching, that's a great disclaimer, and we would totally second that every day here. Nothing to believe, just things to consider, and if you think they're useful, maybe consider them further and put them into practice in your life. I'm hoping we'll have some practical mindful breathing in just a moment. Hugh's here with Huggy Kinhi from Marinha Grand, having lunch, introducing Huggy to us. Well, it's lovely to meet you. Hugh, great to see you here. And I know Hugh likes a bit of a pause during the day. We were doing this together over the last few months. Do you have something along those lines for us, Joe? A practical thing that we can engage in here on the moment on New Reality TV?
Yeah, very simply. This is about heart-centered breathing, essentially, you know. And sometimes I do something called cradling the sacred child. You know, so
that sounds lovely.
You put one hand on your heart and one hand on your tummy or your solar plexus, and you like snuggle this child in, you know. And when I do this with people, sometimes it brings up real big emotions, you know, because essentially this is about restoring our focus on self-care first and foremost. So it's to put your hand on your heart, just relax your eyes, let them go all googly. You know, relax your nose, just imagine that your brain's just softening. Most importantly, become aware of your jaw and the root of your tongue, you know. And the most important thing is, this is what I do. This is an introduction to mindful breathing, is just breathe in and out through your nose. That's the one. It's not in through your nose and out through your mouth. This is in and out through the nose. And I'll explain that in a second. So it goes like this. From the heart, you just imagine that you're breathing a nice, warm, gentle, comforting feeling from your heart. So it goes in, 2, 3, 4, 5, stop. Out, 2, 3, 4, 5, stop. All the way in, 2, 3, 4, 5, stop. Out, 2, 3, 4, 5, stop. So on the in-breath, you imagine there's a big cleansing energy coming in. You can make it golden, you can make it whatever you like. But as it comes in that stop, it collects all the gunge. And as you breathe out through your nose, you're just absolutely just letting all that crap, all that gunge out. Right. And if you practice that, I swear to you, if you make that a priority and you practice that for 3 10-minute sessions a day, the way to enhance this, and this is where the lightheartedness comes in, this is called cultivating an inner smile. If you put a positive emotion on the feeling as well, it creates more space. Science has shown, neuroscience has shown that in this process, which is called heart rate coherence, we produce something called brain-derived neurotrophic factor. And what that is it's the soup for the development of new neural pathways. So as you breathe,
the soil, not the seeds.
Soil, it's developing the soil. So the soil's there. The seed is the positive feeling, right? That actually bypasses the old negative emotional reactive habits.
Yeah.
And it kicks them out. The thing about the negative emotional stuff is the more energy you give to it, the more it gets strong. You know that one. So the idea is like Buckminster Fuller would say. He said there's no point in fighting against what's already gone. The thing to do is create something beautiful and new from now.
Yeah.
You know, and give it no attention, pay no attention to it, just go forward.
That Bucky Fuller, he was quite the guy, wasn't he? Wow.
I really love that, Joe, because that would be very easy for us to do
and teach children.
And that's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah. We could teach our children to do that. And, you know, like hugging myself like this is how I would hold one of my children.
Yeah.
Like when they were small, one hand behind their back, and one sort of around their bottom.
And rocking on the spot.
Moving. I actually imagine I would rock side to side as I'm doing this.
Perfect. It's to get that comforting feeling. It's the feeling that the child has on the mum's breast. It's the coming home feeling. Do you know what I mean? But it's not to rely on external mum. It's almost like you've got to reparent that small playful child that's a bit frightened to play out fully in the world. So there's all sorts of psychological implications here as well, really.
I imagine.
Can I just let me do this? I have a piece of equipment. It's from Heart Math. Heart Math, it's called. And I use that now as an empowerment tool and show people how by changing their breathing like that, what actually happens is they start to change their brain waves as well. So they can use this piece of device. And then I'll do some head, neck and shoulder massage on them. I'm also a Reiki master, whatever that means. So an hour session with somebody, I feel my way through almost like I'm being guided by my intuition that's linked into their intuition. Do you see what I mean?
Yes, I do. Absolutely. I was going to say something. It's completely gone. Oh,
that's a great sign. Yes, it is such a good sign.
But I have just remembered it. I imagine people just break down, don't they? Because as I put my hands here, I just thought, wow, this is how I might hold a child as they're about to completely outpour. And I felt like if I do this for, off screen, I'll probably just burst into tears.
Well, this is how I get them, Louisa. Sorry to butt in. This is how I enhance that. And I say, and by the way, the child is you.
Oh, and that's they're off.
And that's the moment. That's the moment when the waterworks start.
And then part of me says, got them.
Yes. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, and what part of your childhood is saying that?
But I've got a rebellious. I mean, I've always been a joker, a jester. Maybe there's some sort of stereotype there, or archetype, or whatever. But my job has always been to help people smile. It's my job, and it's frowned upon, right? In medicine, right? It's frowned. Be responsible, please. Take it serious, and I can't take anything seriously anymore.
Knowing what you know, how could you? And it's fascinating what you're saying about medicine, isn't it? Because the old cliche, laughter is the best medicine. It's acknowledged, isn't it, that lightening up is well, even that phrase, lightening up. It's all obvious to us, isn't it, instinctively? The only time you're allowed to bring humor into the medical situations, like Patch Adams style, isn't it?
Absolutely.
The children are so sick that we can let them laugh. Whereas all you adults get back in there and be serious while you're getting healed and well again. It's crazy, isn't it?
Another phrase I use is out of the head into the heart. Because and it's been shown there's a mind-body or a brain-heart connection, really. I mean, I think that the mind is non-local, but that's a whole other story, But I think this is about getting the power to reset the way that we process information emotionally. Right. And you can't talk yourself out of it because fear causes us to go into the fight and flight response. And that's the problem. Most people that I work with, they pretend to be okay, but you can tell that they're terrified on the inside.
Oh, bless them. Yeah. And the signs, don't you? You've been there, done that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm guessing it doesn't matter how much you know about yourself. You can always find yourself in that situation again anyway. I mean,
Yeah, and I think we are. Everything's being accentuated in the way that I think you talk about, Joe. There, the astronomical, the astrological. It's all very heightened, isn't it? So as much as the fear might being heightened, the availability of care, compassion, solutions also being heightened as we're living large, as it were, and facing ourselves in this time.
I like this comment from Tom Evans. Actually, this must help anyone heal better from heart disease.
Yes. Yeah. And I think
disease is ill at easeness, isn't it? And my view is from a deep, like what was her name? You can heal your
Louise Hay.
Louise
Hay. I looked at that initially and thought, wow, God, behave yourself, But I wholeheartedly know now that in the aspects and the compartments of the mind, what's going on in processing impacts and materializes in the physical body. And that's why I have a view about cancer as well, that cancer cells don't need to be fought against. They need to be understood, because a cancer cell starts off as a normal cell, but then for various reasons, it becomes irritated. Now it becomes irritated and it sends us signs to say, I'm irritated here because you're doing something that you see what I mean? But if we don't pay attention, or we take something to silence it, it becomes inflamed then. And like any good old cell, it will start to protect itself. And I think that that's what we need to look at, really.
Well, that's not a bad little metaphor for society, is it? I mean, like it's little cells that are getting irritated and inflamed and looking for attention to be healed and back to homeostasis or harmony for that matter.
Yeah, I don't mean to be a stooge, just putting it out there, just so we don't get our asses sued. We're not talking about how to cure it necessarily. That's for a whole other session on a different channel, probably, or never. But I totally agree with what you're saying, Joe. That any time we are experiencing a symptom, there's something going on. There's something that we need to love,
a message,
and pay attention to.
Yeah, I understand that as a consideration, really. I'm not telling anybody what to do. I'm just thinking these are the thoughts that come to me, whether they're right or wrong. We need to research and look at both sides of this, just in case we've been wrong.
Yes, and you're right. None of us have ever been encouraged to look in any other direction other than what we've been told to look in. It's like look over here, but not over here.
Yes. Well, here we are looking over here this morning,
and in lots of different directions.
Yeah, and it's lovely to have your company. I was fascinated by the names of your new projects, Joe, and we need to be able to connect people with those. I love Innate Asset Management. Is that right?
Yes, I am.
Now that sounds like a hedge fund or a wealth management company, which is a lovely joke, isn't it? Because it's like, actually true wealth does lie that way, doesn't it, in your innate asset management? So that's a great investment.
I particularly like that as well, because I use a lot of I am statements myself. I love that.
Well, the Hebrew one wasn't it? I am that I am. People say that a lot. I heard one the other day and it just went boom. I am this I am. This is who I am.
Ooh.
Right? I am this I am. It saves you looking outwards for anything else. And it just brings you right back to, this is me, right? This is where I'm up to. This is how I process information. This is how I see the world. Could be completely wrong, but you've asked me for my opinion and you've asked me for how to see it. This is how I see it. And then when somebody says like, oh, hang on a second, you don't want to be thinking like that, I go, bye-bye.
Right, Joe, we've got 30 seconds to go. How do people get in touch with a touch of the old I am or F off?
And also, would you come back another time as well?
Yeah,
of course. If I'm not massively busy, of course I'd love to, because I enjoy this. They get in touch with me at the moment, and I'm thinking of changing direction actually. But I have a YouTube channel called Getting Real with Dr. Joe.
Very, very good. We have to leave it there, Joe. Thank you so much. That flew by. Absolutely wonderful to see you again. Take care and bye for now, everybody. See you tomorrow.